You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Tomorrow and Thursday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs between 85 and 88 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Tuesday, September 17, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. I got my main man, Chase Brumfeld, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. Again, that number, 205-342-9904. We would love to hear from you. And all you have to do is dial that number, 205-342-9904, and we'll get you on the show. Lot to cover this morning, and we're certainly going to do that for you. I'll get into the show lineup here in just a moment, but first I need to tell you, as always, this hour, the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking. I encourage you to find out more. Find out all the advantages for yourself. Go to alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com, or simply stop by and see them at one of the many great locations around the state of Alabama and the Panhandle of Florida. They'll let you know all that they're about, and I think once you see the advantages for yourself, you're going to want to become a member just like I am. Again, that's alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, let me bring Chase in here just to kind of touch base, since I am not in studio today, but Chase is in the control room. Chase, what's going on? Good morning, buddy.
Good morning. Good to hear from you. I'm doing okay. Watched the Eagles and the Falcons debacle.
Holy cow.
My gosh.
Lord. I tell you, that I said on my sportscast last night on WVUA 23 at 10 o'clock. By the way, let me go ahead and just say this, because I'm getting tons of messages on social media. People reaching out to me, emails. I know we are not, unless they got us back up this morning, we're not on Direct, we're not on Dish, we're not on Spectrum, we're not on Infinity right now. We are broadcasting at low power. We have a transmitter issue. They're trying to get it resolved, but in the meantime, some of those providers cannot rebroadcast us until we're back up at full power, I suppose. So a lot of people aren't getting us right now. I understand that. You can download the WVOA 23 app, or you can watch us on the live stream, or if you have a digital antenna, you can pick us up that way. Or we're on some systems, but I do understand it's frustrating, and I hope we're fixed soon. But getting back to the game, I said on my sportscast that capped off what had been just a crazy weekend. So many games just went down to the wire. So many games in the NFL that looked like they were over weren't over, and that's the beauty of the NFL. It's never over until it's over. And then last night, you had a situation with the Eagles where they were in control of the game against the Falcons, and early in the game, on a 4th and goal from the 4-yard line, Nick Sirianni went for it, and that field goal would have turned out to be enough to win the game, regardless. But these young coaches, and I say young coaches because there's a lot of 30-something-year-old coaches in the NFL now, and they're obsessed with going for it on 4th down, and I assume it's the analytics. But when you start chasing points out early in the game, it usually comes back to bite you. And what happened was the Eagles were up 3 late. They had a 3rd and 3 from, I think, around the 10-yard line, 8-yard line or something of the Falcons. And they ran a little swing pass to Saquon Barkley. And he dropped it. If he catches it, the game's over. Falcons would have had one timeout left. And they might not even have any timeouts at that point. I can't remember, but if he catches the ball, he has the first down. The Eagles run off the clock and they win it 21-15, or 18-15. So what happened was they wound up kicking the field goal. That's right, they kicked the field goal. Falcons got the ball back with no timeouts, but they got an extra timeout when the ball was dropped because that stopped the clock. And they went right down the field. The Falcons offense that really hadn't done a whole lot went right down the field, and it was 3rd and 3 at the Falcons 10, and the Eagles decided to throw it. And listen, I guess you can't knock the call because it was executed perfectly. Everything other than the catch. Jalen Hurts hit him right in the hands. I mean, right in the hands. And Saquon, who's one of the best backs in the league, but does occasionally drop a ball, just flat out dropped it. And Falcons got it back and went down and scored with 34 seconds. The Eagles actually completed a first down pass from Hurts to Dallas Goedert to get it up to like their 40, which with probably only needed about another, I don't know. Boy, these kickers kick now. Maybe Elliott has made one from 61, so probably only needed about another 14 or 15 yards, 16 yards to have a chance. But on the 1st and 10 play, Jalen got hit. He was trying to get it to Devontae Smith, and the ball was intercepted, and that was your ball game. But it was absolutely crazy, and it capped off a crazy, crazy weekend. And anyway, but we got phone calls already waiting on us. We're going to get into a lot of other stuff. Alabama football press conference. Nick Saban did not have a press conference on a bye week, but Coach DeBoer did. So we've got Coach DeBoer, Nick Sheridan. We've got Kane Womack. And also our guest list at 9:30, we got the Rocket Man, Rudy Arman from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. And at 10:15, we've got the Titans report with Kayla Anderson. The Titans are 0-2 after losing 2 games that they could have won. Right now, we're going to jump out on the hotline and lead it off with Aaron. Good morning, Aaron. Aaron's gone. Now, Aaron is one that does not like to hold. I guess we should have gotten Aaron on right away, but we'll go to Philip. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Gary. That was a beautiful drive that the Falcons put together last night to take head points. It was a great game. Just a all of a sudden type game. You know, it was just you thought the Falcons were dead, and then they pulled that off. But that was a huge win for Atlanta. And they've got the Chiefs coming into town Sunday. That's going to be a really huge opportunity for Atlanta to sort of get back on the map.
Yeah, it would be. If you could beat the Chiefs after beating the Eagles on the road in the fashion in which they did, if you could then beat the Chiefs at home, yeah, all of a sudden you'd be making a statement. I don't think that they will. I don't think they should have won that game last night. But give them credit, as you said, when they got an opportunity after the Eagles didn't put it away, they marched right down the field and scored easily. And London caught the pass from Cousins to ultimately give them the win. Hey, let me ask you this, because I know with you follow the Braves some too. I didn't see any of the Braves game last night, but they got beat 9-0 by the Dodgers and gave up 4 hits. So, what do you have any idea what happened? How do you give up 9 runs on 4 hits?
Gosh, Gary, I actually I did not keep up with that last night. I saw where the Mets won, so I can't comment. Yeah,
Braves are a game back now, the wild card. But the Braves got beat 9-0 and gave up 4 hits. I don't know that I've ever seen that.
Must have been some big home runs with guys on base.
Had to be a grand slam or something, because the Dodgers had a 6-run 7th inning, so there must have been a lot of runs and or a lot of walks. And but yeah, that's just very odd that you see 4 hits and you give up 9 runs. But the Braves right now are in danger of being on the outside looking in when these playoffs come. But yeah, getting back to that Falcons and Eagles game, it was a big win for the Falcons, because if you start 0-2 with the Chiefs coming in on Sunday, as you said, that's just gonna suck the wind right out of your fan base, and they're gonna be back. Oh no, here we go, same old Falcons. But now you got a little juice, so we'll see what happens.
Well, it was a full house, and the Atlanta broadcast team last night they were saying the dome was going to be. They're hoping it's pretty weather, because they're going to want to open the roof Sunday night for that game. So that'll be interesting. And the Saints are playing great. They're 2-0. They're just wiping people off the floor. And to me, the Vikings being 2-0 and beating the 49ers last week was a kind of a surprise.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so. So, yeah, there's some early surprises. And the Saints have scored over 90 points in 2 games. They look like a juggernaut. The Vikings 2-0. Yeah, Seahawks are 2-0, and then you've got the Ravens 0-2 and the Bengals 0-2. So it's crazy, man. It truly is. Anybody can beat anybody. The 32nd team can beat the first ranked. I like to think I don't know if the Panthers can beat anybody, and more on that situation with Bryce Young coming up. But outside of the Panthers, it feels like, you know, if you're any team in that league, you can win or lose on a given Sunday, and that's what they like. There's so much parity. This weekend was unbelievable. I mean, and the games are really, unless you're up, like, you know, if it's a complete blowout. But other than that, you know, let's say you're up 13 with 3 minutes to go. We see teams now lose games all the time up 13 with 3 minutes to go. I mean, we saw the Ravens just about do it up 10, and they were up 13, I think. I can't remember how it worked out for them, but you know, you unless you close these games out, if the other teams get their hands on the ball, and the way you can manipulate these timeouts, and with the 2-minute warning, and with the clock stopping with incomplete passes and things, it's just there's a lot of ways to come back and win games.
Right. You know, Tampa Bay's 2-0. They play the Broncos, who's 0-2 this week. They've got. I want to look back on some of the records. This might be the first time they've have a chance to be 3-0 in a long time.
Yeah, it may be. So, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for some teams to, you know, start fast. And, you know, when you do that, you know, they're playing 17 games this year. So it's like this, though. You know, if you start 2-0, really all that theoretically guarantees you is that that the worst you could finish is 2-15. I mean, you got to keep winning, but the more you win to start a season, the more margin for error you've got. Let's just say you start, for whatever reason, let's say a team starts 5-0. Suddenly it's a 12-game season. So they have cut it down to the point where probably if they go 6-6 the rest of the way, they're going to get in the playoffs. That's going to be 11 wins. Yeah. So if you start fast, you've got a margin for error. Where if you start slow, let's say you start out 1-3 and you got 13 games left, you know, you don't have much margin for error. So winning early kind of sets you up to have obviously a better chance to make the playoffs. And if you hit a little slump, you can play through it. Whereas if you start slow, let's say you start 0-3, there's no margin for error, man. You can't hit. You let's say you're 0-3 and you fight back to get to 4-3. You win 4 in a row, but then you lose 3 in a row again, and you're like 4. You know what I'm saying? It's so. Yeah, that's why the early part of the season is so important. Momentum and getting ahead of the curve and having a little margin for error is so important in the NFL. And these teams that start out 2-0 and 3-0 and 4-0, they've set themselves up.
Yeah, I know it's a little bit early, man, and I know we're a week or so away, but Coach Harris, I'm going to ask you, what's your game plan going into the Georgia game for Alabama?
Well, obviously this week's important. This week is important to get some guys healthy, have a good, you know, get them a little bit of a break, and then dive in and get ready, and then come back next week with one focus in mind, and that is to be prepared, like you say, to go out and play your best game of the year. So my first part of my game plan is to have my guys ready to feel like we've got 3 games under our belt. We're coming off a bye. You know, we're rested, we're focused, we're ready to go. And so the mindset is to play my best game of the year. You know, nothing that happened previously matters. Nothing that happens after this week matters. The one thing that we're focused on is this one game. Treat it like that. You should treat every game that way anyway, but particularly this one. Then from a X's and O's standpoint, I just think I hate to say this, but I think Alabama is a kind of team that you just want to play Alabama football. You just want to be yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself, whether it's Georgia or Texas or Ohio State or anybody else. I think if Alabama is the best version of Alabama, Alabama can beat anybody. And they've proven that, and I still think that the team is, constructed well enough to do that. So from on the field standpoint, I think you want to dictate, and by that I mean get a lead early, make Georgia uncomfortable, get the crowd into it, be balanced on offense. I think you want to have a nice blend of run and pass. I thought they did that against Wisconsin. Obviously, the quarterback runs, I think, are important with that. I think Jalen Milroe, you have to use his legs. That's a weapon. But you also want him to be in a rhythm in the passing game from the pocket. I would like to see Phillip, even though, boy, he throws the ball downfield well. And they hit some big plays against Wisconsin. I'd still like to see more screen game. I'd like to see more stuff where the ball comes out of his hands quicker to kind of slow down Georgia pass rush and get them on their heels, and just go out there and defensively make Georgia earn it. You know, I don't look at Georgia as with the weapons they've lost from last year. I don't really look at them as a big play offense, but they're capable of making big plays. But the big thing is defensively, it's just not to give up any cheapies. Don't have any busts. Don't make anything easy for them. Make them earn it. And I think if Alabama's sound in the kicking game, they'll win the football game. I think the home field advantage is huge. If this game were in Athens, I'd probably reverse it and give Georgia the edge. But with it in Tuscaloosa, I'm going to give Alabama the edge, and I think Alabama's going to win the football game. And I just think they have to be the best version of themselves. If they're the best version of themselves in Tuscaloosa, if Alabama plays its best and Georgia plays its best, I think Alabama wins the game.
Yeah. Good analysis, Gary. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Philip. 9:16 here on the Gary Harris Show. Aaron, I'm sorry we didn't get to you soon enough. I know you don't stay on hold long, but if you want to call back into the next segment, we can get you on. All right, we've got the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond, coming up at 9:30. We've got Kayla Anderson with the Titans report at 10:15. More of your phone calls are welcome. And when we come back, the Bama in the NFL update that I hate to have to give. Is it over for Bryce Young already in Charlotte with Carolina Panthers? It appears to be the case. And we will we'll break down what has happened there so fast for the number one overall pick from a year ago. We'll do that next right here on the Gary Harris Show.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. The property tax increase vote in the city of Tuscaloosa drawing opposition from area realtors and apartment complex owners who have started a citywide effort called Stop the Big Tax. But City of Tuscaloosa Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mike Daria, points out the tax is critical for not only a quality education, but also a
Coach's Huddle is your insight into your local prep sports program and is brought to you by Venue Tuscaloosa, Barkley GMC, and Legend Energy Drinks.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m., get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free. Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure...
Or at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside.
Credits and qualifying new line for well-qualified customers, plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Contact us before canceling entire account to continue remaining bill credits, and if you pay off device early. See details at T-Mobile.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
It's a dry forecast for the rest of this week. The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86. Clear tonight, the low 62. And for tomorrow and Thursday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs between 85 and 88 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, it's 9:21. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. 9:22. The clock just rolled over to the next minute. And some huge news out of the NFL, and it's disappointing news if you're an Alabama fan. Our Bama in the NFL update, usually it's really positive. There's so many Bama players, I think like 61 or 2 of them on rosters, current NFL rosters. So many positives each weekend to report on. But last week we had to report on the Tua concussion, and that certainly was negative. And then yesterday, it's about as bad as it gets if you're the former number 1 overall pick just from a year ago. Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick by the Carolina Panthers in 2023. Number 1 overall, first pick in the draft. and started all 16 games last year. They went 2-14. New head coach comes in. I thought Dave Canales would be great for Bryce Young. He did really good stuff with Baker Mayfield last year in Tampa. But after 2 games, the Panthers pulled the plug on Bryce. He is he's 0-2, as are the Panthers. But what's troubling is for Canales to do this now, this early, and turn it over to Andy Dalton, who I think is a fine player. He's had a really good career, 36 years old. But he actually is not just pulling Young for the short term. This is pulling the plug on Bryce Young for his career, in my opinion, with the Panthers. I think his next step will be either he accepts a backup role or he asks for a trade, and in the offseason, who knows, maybe even sooner than that, the Panthers just cut bait and try to get whatever they can get for him. You're not going to get much right now because there's no leverage there. But there's still some teams that would like, I think, to have a chance to work with Bryce Young. Better personnel would help him out. But here's what's troubling. I told you I was get to the point. And I'll read you his comments from Dave Canales. In fact, we might try to get Chase to find those on the internet, and we'll play them a little bit later. Don't have time to get them ready right now. But what Canales basically is saying, let me just read it to you. This is Canales yesterday, what he had to say when the announcement was made. In regards to benching Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton for the game against the Raiders this coming Sunday. Certainly a lot of parties involved there, and ultimately this comes on me. My number one responsibility is to help the Panthers win, and so this move puts us in the best chance to do that. And I'll continue with what he had to say. Hold on here just a second. Let me get back up. When I came here, I wasn't sure if I was going to get another opportunity. That's Dalton, okay, but anyway, trying to find the rest from Canales. But he went on to say basically that he wants to give his team the best chance to win. And in essence, to me, he was saying that Young's the problem. So it puts pressure on Canales too, because I think if they don't play better, because he is basically making a statement, in my opinion, that says this is the issue, is the quarterback play. We can play better without our young, number 1 overall, 22-year-old quarterback. So we're pulling the plug. I don't see how you can go back to him now, and I don't see really how he can play anymore in Carolina. All right, now let's try to get a couple phone calls in. Before we hit the break, we got Drew to – all right, let's get to RV real quickly, and then we'll get to Tom. Good morning, RV.
Hey, Gary. How are you this morning, my friend?
I'm good, thank you.
Listen, I wanted to talk about NFL place kickers for just a minute.
Okay.
I have been amazed at the accuracy and the strength of these NFL place kickers nowadays as far as kicking these field goals of 50-plus yards.
Oh, yeah.
Just like automatic. I mean, you go back years ago, and I think it was Tom Dempsey, the guy that had the half a foot, kicked the
63-yarder for the Saints in 1970 against the Lions. Yeah, with the club foot. Yeah.
You just didn't have a whole lot of kickers back in the day that could kick over 50 yards. And
nope, you didn't.
It's just become an automatic kind of a thing. And what do you attribute to that? You think is
there's several things. Everything evolves. Soccer has a lot to do with it. When the soccer style kickers started coming into play, and the leg strength that soccer players developed in that style of kicking, and then just the evolution of kicking. It's important, and guys became more specialized. A lot of times back in the day, the kicker was either the backup quarterback, or he might be receiver. It wasn't even all the time that and they were straight on kickers. And like you said, if you kicked a 40-yard field goal, that was considered long. It's just, these kids start working on kicking. They play soccer and they start working as kickers when they're 5, 6 years old, and their leg strength is just unbelievable. Their technique is incredible. And they're now to the point where even last night, the Falcons' extra point came, they got a penalty. So it was a 40-something yard extra point, and, he just split the uprights. And there'd been a time when, a 40-something yard extra point, you'd have figured it's about a 50-50 chance whether or not they were going to make it. So you're right. I mean, you just take it for granted now. Heck, man, even when they line up to kick a 61 or 62 or 63-yarder now, you expect it to go in. In fact,
change the game. Absolutely.
Yeah, the kicker for the Cowboys had a 66-yarder, but there was an illegal procedure, so it didn't count. But he hit one from 66. So it's phenomenal watching these guys, and that's one reason they backed the extra point up, try to make it a little more challenging for them. But they just line it up and they just bomb it from everywhere.
I know. It just definitely changed the game because you can be way away from the goal line and still kick a field goal and win a game.
Yeah, that's why I was disappointed last night that the Eagles couldn't at least get in position for Elliott to try a long one. But but anyway, the Eagles flat out blew that game. Hey, I got to try to hit Tom real quick. Thank you, RV.
Okay. All right.
Appreciate you. All right, let's try to get Tom on real quick before we hit the break. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Gary. I won't be but a minute, but that guy from Carolina, Corvallis, is that what you said his name is?
Dave Canales, yeah.
Well, how can that guy look himself in the mirror and blame Bryce Young for him not being the best opportunity to win the game? They have given Bryce not crap to work with up there. I mean,
I agree.
They didn't even try to improve themselves this past offseason with the draft or free agency or anything. That guy's an idiot. I mean, all that talk about Bryce when he come out of college, and then they didn't give him any weapons whatsoever. How can he expect him to win? It's really frustrating when that happens, not just to Bryce, but there's a lot of people that they've done. You take C.J. Stroud at Houston. They gave him some things to work with. He took them to the playoffs.
Well, the problem with the Panthers, though, is what they traded to get Bryce. They didn't have anything to work with. They traded off their assets. And for better or for worse, in this case for worse, you say, well, why didn't they get him some assets? They didn't really have any assets to get. I mean, they didn't have, I'm with you. I'm not blaming Bryce for all of this, but they don't really have any options.
Blame that manager.
Huh?
I blame the general manager.
Well, you should. They shouldn't. Listen, they should not have traded up to get Bryce Young. They should have. If they'd had a better organization, they should have been worried about getting players to go with their team, and then you could have found a quarterback later in the first round or later in the draft. But that's the decision that they made, and then this coach didn't make that decision. This coach came in this year, so he's not tied to Bryce. He's not connected to Bryce. He wasn't on the staff. He didn't have anything to do with drafting Bryce. So it's much easier for him to come in and say, we're cutting ties with the guy. And that's what they're doing, for better or for worse. I hate it.
Exactly right.
But it is what it is, and I don't see how you can, he can never be the quarterback there now. I think that
he won't. He won't.
I think that
trade him because it's killed his confidence.
But I'll tell you this, I'm and I like Andy Dalton. I got nothing against Andy Dalton, but I hope that the Panthers keep on losing. I don't want to see them start winning with the backup quarterback.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, Tom, thanks.
Tide Tailgate Show is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors, Skyland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa, and the new location, Highway 280, Birmingham. Online at academy.com.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgage.
Ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy.
Discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
.934, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and we're joined now by the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville for his Talking Ball segment with us here on the Gary Harris Show. Drew, how are you?
Good, Gary. How are you?
Doing great, man. Alabama 42, Wisconsin 10 on Saturday at Camp Randall Stadium. Clearly Alabama's most complete performance of the young season to get to 3-0. Get to the bye, and get ready for Georgia. First, though, your takeaways from what you saw from the Crimson Tide at Camp Randall Stadium on Saturday.
Well, I mean, I saw a very efficient game with a lot of explosiveness on offense. I mean, I thought Jalen Milroe continued his great play on the road, which kind of defined his career. He was very efficient, 12 of 17 for 196. 3 different receivers caught touchdown passes. He did a great job with his legs. He ran for 2 more. I just felt like overall the offense was they showed some explosiveness both via the pass and the run. We saw Ryan Williams continue to make plays. We saw Jam Miller get loose. Didn't see as much of Justice Haynes in this game, but I think it was just he got 5 touches. But Alabama was really, I think they were only on the field for 56 snaps, so they didn't really have that many offensive snaps overall total. But they maximized everything they had. They scored 42 points. They fell behind 3-0, and then missed a field goal of their own. So once again, to a degree, a slow start offensively because they didn't punch it in. But the 4th down play made by Deontay Lawson kind of sparked everything. Alabama did force 2 turnovers. And so I thought just overall a very business-like performance on the road. A team, in Wisconsin that's rebuilding, and prayers out to Tyler Van Dyke. Hated to see him go down like that.
Right.
But Braden Locke did a nice job on. He had no idea he was even going to play in the game. He came off the bench. He sparked them. They had that 17-play drive. That was one of the concerns, I guess, for me is the run defense and the run fits at times. Now, they didn't give up any big plays or any explosive plays to Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's, I don't think right now, at least from a personnel standpoint, they're not built that way. So Alabama made them earn every yard, but you still didn't like seeing them score on that 4th down and goal. And really, Alabama had 2 or 3 chances during that drive to get them off the field. So they're going to have to work on that, work on the run fits, work on being in the right gap. But I thought, honestly, it's a line of scrimmage game. I thought when we finally saw the first 5 offensive line that, we kind of been anticipating with Elisha Pritchett at right tackle and, Caden Proctor at left. I thought they looked outstanding. I've always thought this other line was going to be good guard to guard. And Brailsford's been a really good fit at center to allow that. But the 2 tackles played exceptional football. They only got called for 1 penalty on the O-line, 4 overall. So I just thought when you take everything into its totality, it was a really, really good performance on the road against a program I respect. It's well coached by Luke Fickell, and he didn't mince words afterward. He knew they got their butt kicked, but I thought it was a good first road win for Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, you really summed it up well, and I'm with you on the offensive line. What a huge difference in that game with Proctor at left tackle, and you saw that offensive line and what it can become and what this offense has a chance to become. And I'm with you on the defense. Just you mentioned the run fits, and let's be honest, there were still a couple of times, including a corner route where if the quarterback makes an accurate throw, it would have been a touchdown. And there was another one the guy was running wide open. Alabama has not been hurt by that, but when you go up in competition, you can't be leaving guys open. These quarterbacks are going to find them. How big a concern is that for you, Drew, just locking people down in coverage and not, I don't want people to call them bust, but guys getting open in the secondary?
Well, it's not a super surprise because it's the secondary that's young for Alabama, and sometimes you may get caught peeking or you may not be as sound technique-wise. So they've got to continue to get better there, no question about it. Some have talked about the pass rush, but I think the pass rush has been good. L.T. Overton's done a nice job. Hugh Robinson's done a nice job. You hate to see, Quay Russaw go down because he did such a great job of setting the edge. But the one bonus you have is Alabama's very deep at the wolf spot. We saw Hugh Robinson. We saw Keanu Coote. Coote's got to be a little bit better, be a little sounder, fundamentally. But then they got Yonzay Pierre in there. Yonzay's a former 5-star who is starting to get his feet wet. I love the fact that they're playing a lot of guys. So, no question that they've got to, get a little bit better back there in the secondary. But a lot of that is just repetition, and it's younger guys. So certainly a guy like Carson Beck can take full advantage of it. You don't want to give Georgia any big plays like that. But the key is going to be stopping Trevor Etienne first. Etienne is, he's no question the bell cow of their running game. And right now, Georgia has not shown a lot of explosiveness from the receiver corps. But again, they probably held some things back for Alabama. I'm sure Alabama's held some things back for UGA. But I just think overall, I would probably give so far, I'd give the offense probably, an A, and then the defense maybe an A-. And then special teams, same thing, probably around an A-. You hated to see Graham Nicholson miss the 46-yarder, but it was just wide right. Burnup has been maybe the best, punter in the country. And then from a return standpoint, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen Mbakwe make an explosive punt return and Ryan Williams. So they've got plenty of options back there. You're probably not going to get as many kickoff return opportunities just because of the way the rules are set up, but we'll see. But I just think overall this Alabama team is, I think, getting better, and that's the key. You want to continue to improve every week and play at a higher level, and it's going to take a high level because I'll just to let everybody know, I know Georgia didn't look very good against Kentucky this past Saturday, but they'll look much better against Alabama. They both got 2 weeks to prepare, and it's going to be another Ali Frazier type matchup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One concern for Alabama, and normally after 3 weeks you would say, well, don't want to buy. But in this case, I think it's coming at a perfect time. As you said, Georgia gets 1-2. But Cole Adams was hurt against USF and didn't play. And then in that game alone, you had Malachi Moore go down, Quay Russaw go down, and Richard Young go down. Status update from Coach DeBoer yesterday was basically we're going to monitor these guys. But you have the extra week. That's huge. What do you feel like it looks like Moore will be back. I'm not sure on Young. And of course, Quay Russaw is a budding superstar as an edge rusher. His status appears to be up in the air as well, Drew.
Yeah, from what I understand with Quay, I think it's a knee and an ankle, so it might be difficult for him to get back for Georgia. Probably will be. I would think Malachi Moore would be back from the concussion. I think the bye week came at a perfect time for him to get cleared and everything when he got into the collision with his own teammate. Richard Young, I don't have a ton of clarity on that one. I heard he was in a boot, so it may be one of those tightrope type high ankle sprains, so he may be out for a while. But let's be honest, this is going to be a Justice Haynes, Jam Miller game. Richard was doing a nice job running the football against Wisconsin, and he's a really good third back. But I think your top two stalwarts are going to be the ones that they're going to want to carry this game plan and to execute. So, I think the bigger question is Quay Russaw. And right now, I would be a little surprised if he's back, but I didn't know that Caden Proctor would be back for Wisconsin. So Jeff Allen and the medical staff do a great job. I'm sure they're going to do everything in their power to get Quay back. But again, the bonus is Alabama should have 2 weeks to prepare the other three we talked about, and Q-Rob, Coote, and certainly, Yonzay Pierre. But hopefully we'll see Russaw again because he's 250 pounds. He runs like a deer, and he's got the perfect skill set for the Wolf spot because he does a nice job both against the run, setting the edge, and rushing the passer. But we'll see. Certainly, if there's one spot, unlike offensive tackle, for Alabama, they can. I think they can manage an injury at the Wolf position. All right, let's go ahead and you
alluded to it, but Alabama has the bye, Georgia has the bye, but this is going to be a mega early season showdown, and I think I don't know if it's the expectation, but you still sense, if you follow Alabama, that there is a hope by the rest of the SEC, really by most of college football, that Georgia comes in here and wins this game. I think that, a lot of, as you've pointed out on social media often, there's Bama fatigue. It's real. It's out there. People are tired of Alabama. There's been several pundits and broadcasters and analysts that have tried to bury them several times over the last 2 or 3 years. Much to their chagrin, Alabama is the defending SEC champion and the team that made the college football playoff. But I think there are a lot of people hanging their hopes on Georgia winning this football game. And Alabama, I don't think is going to cooperate. They're going to be ready to go. But there's a lot on the line for the game itself. But I think also just in terms of where college football is at right now, because if Alabama wins this game, it's going to be hard to continue that narrative that Georgia is the dominant team in the SEC, particularly with the fact that Alabama's won 2 of the last 3 SEC championships head-to-head against Georgia. So there's a lot on the line in addition to just playing for this season in terms of the perception in college football nationally. Would you agree with that, Drew?
Yeah, Kirby Freeze, Smart would be 1-6. He would be 0-1 against Kalen DeBoer. Now, is there a chance that Georgia and Alabama could play as many as 3 times in the same season because of this new playoff? Absolutely. And because of even though there's no divisions, that they could be the top 2 teams in the SEC, unequivocally. Georgia's a hell of a program. Kirby's done a great job. They're going to be the most physical team Alabama's played all year. They haven't given up an offensive touchdown, which I think is, you got to tip your hat there in this era. They didn't have Michael Williams, their best defensive lineman, arguably, in the last game against Kentucky, and they still, were very, very tough to handle, especially in the red zone. But again, I don't think they've seen a team like Alabama that has the weapons, the explosiveness. I certainly don't think Clemson has. So it's going to be, very interesting. It's going to come down to whether Alabama can match Georgia's physicality. I thought Alabama played physical against Wisconsin, but they're going to have to take it to another level because Georgia's, they try to wreck you up front. I thought it was the reason Alabama beat them in Atlanta last year is because they were able to win the battle at the line of scrimmage in both cases. Beck, certainly a really good quarterback who has underrated mobility, but you can still get after him. Alabama's defensive line is going to have to be a little more consistent. I think they have gotten some good play. I think bright moments have been had by L.T. Overton, Tim Smith, of course, Tim Keenan, but they've got to be even more consistent. And I think if you're going to beat Georgia, which is a heavyweight, you're going to have to really do it at the line of scrimmage because that's the way football is won against the big-time teams. That's the way Kirby has built his program. And so it's a chance for Kalen DeBoer and his program to make an early season statement and to prove they're still as good as any team on the block. And, hopefully they're going to take that opportunity to heart. I like Alabama offensively at all the positions, O-line, tight end, wide receiver, running back, even QB, because the way Milroe's playing, I'll take them all over what Georgia's got. I think Georgia's very good, but I think Alabama's even better. Now we just got to see, can Alabama, match Georgia defensively? I think Alabama's played pretty well, but we've already brought it up. Alabama does have some inexperience along the, in the defensive backfield. They have had some injuries to Quay Russaw. He's been a little banged up. So Alabama's going to have to play. And don't forget, they had to go without a half without Justin Jefferson, which I think was big. So at least they should have all hands on deck, including Malachi Moore for this game. And if you're Alabama, you should be very confident. And you're playing inside Bryant-Denny Stadium and should be an electric environment and should be looking forward to the challenge coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yep, absolutely. And, of course, next week we'll have much more on this game, Drew, for sure. I want to get to a couple of the topics with you. The Bryce Young situation in Charlotte is disappointing. I'm still trying to kind of wrap my arms around it. They drafted him number 1 overall just a year ago. Really bad team, not a lot of weapons. You bring in Dave Canales, who I was excited about because of the work that he did with Baker Mayfield last year in Tampa. But for him to really throw Bryce under the bus after two games is disappointing to me and basically say, well, Andy Dalton gives us the best chance to win. Well, you better go win some games then, because you basically said with all the problems that your team has, that changing the quarterback is the one that's going to give us the best chance to win. I don't see how Bryce comes back from this there. I think they're going to have to deal him now and take what they can get for him, and maybe he'll get an opportunity somewhere else. But I understand it's a different world for quarterbacks now. You see first-round draft picks get thrown to the curb quickly, but to be the number one overall pick and 2 games into your second season, be benched, what do you make of it?
I think they're the worst organization in sports. I think they've got a trash owner who's worse than Daniel Snyder, who's now no longer an owner. As soon as Jerry Richardson's health went down and he had to sell the franchise, it's been garbage. I don't think Canales is a head coach. I think, what the hell has he ever done? I mean, I guess he did. He worked with Tom Brady in Tampa. Well, big whoop. You know what I'm saying? But I will say he obviously didn't learn anything because Baker Mayfield was given up on by the Browns, and then he had to go to Carolina in purgatory. And once he got to Tampa with some weapons and a decent owner and a good organization, now look at him. He looks fine. Mm-hmm. Even Sam Darnold, who they had for a while, has gone to Minnesota and looks good. Look, man, I know one thing. Bryce Young is a great kid, a great person. This is not somebody that's Vince Young that's trying to piss his money away and not do things the right way. He processes really well. He's a great person off the field. I always thought he prepared well at Alabama. I think he's probably the best QB all around that I've ever seen for the Tide because of his durability and his ability to be a playmaker. He just got drafted by the wrong organization. If Houston had the number 1 pick, I think he'd be doing fine. He just went to the worst organization in the NFL. And when you look at their weapons, they got Chuba Hubbard. He's a pedestrian running back. Adam Thielen's probably their best wide receiver. He's over the hill. He's on the back end of his career. They don't have any weapons, Gary. I mean, you can't succeed. And they didn't invest in their offensive line. I mean, if I'm his agent, I'm just trying to get him out of there. I'm trying to get him traded. And it's really unprecedented to give up on a number 1 overall pick in 18 games.
It really is. It really is. It's sad. It is. But he's a resilient kid. I hope he can bounce back. One final quick topic. Basketball player Lyndon Jemison slated to commit. Alabama is among the finalists. What are you hearing on Lyndon Jemison, Drew?
Well, I mean, I think Alabama's right in the mix there. I mean, certainly, I know Louisville. I think it's Louisville and Alabama.
I do too. Yeah,
is in the top 2. London just recently made a visit to Alabama when he was. I heard that Alabama led going into the visit. I mean, and I think with Davion Hannah and with Lyndon Jemison, that could be your next 2, commitments. Then we'll see if Alabama starts doing the Ryan Pannone, foreign import deal after that, because I know everyone saw that they offered a big over in Iceland, 7-1, and who has a skill set kind of fit for Nate Oates basketball. And I know Ryan Pannone has invested a lot of time over in Europe because that's a resource Alabama needs to start mining, especially with the NIL situations with a lot of the top 10, 15 players. You're not going to get all those guys, and plus, the overseas market is very, very lucrative if you can get in it. I know they've been in the mix for some really good players, some that have already been drafted into the NBA. I think they're in the mix for 3 or 4 really good players. And I would say that Hannah coming off his visit and Lyndon Jemison are probably 2 of the guys to watch as far as a combo guard. And Jemison would probably be considered, a combo forward, more of a power forward probably, but he would be a really nice piece as well. I mean, I think he's considered a top 50 player, and Hannah is considered a top 30. So I know Preston Murphy tweeted something this morning. Everybody tries to read into what, kind of what in the riddles that he's putting out there. But certainly, I think they got off to a really good start with Amari Allen, and I think you can see some other pieces added to the puzzle because that early November signing period is going to be here before we know it. And I know Alabama's trying to, I'd say, have 3 or 4 pieces in place by then.
Great stuff as always, Drew, and fill our listeners in on where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me at Drew D 977 ESPN or at 977 ESPN, our radio station. Certainly, if you miss any of our content, we bring you Talking Ball 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday with myself and Scott Tyson. You can check us out at 977ESPN.com, or you can check out our SoundCloud page where all of our content is, 977 ESPN, The Zone. And we always enjoy being on the Gary Harris Show and talking ball on Tide 109.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, man.
All right, it's 9:54 here on the Gary Harris Show. This first hour has rocked on by.
The Last Scoreboard Show from 10 to 11 p.m. The Last Scoreboard Show is brought to you by 4th District Congressman Robert Adderholt, Bevel State Community College, 1225 Sports Bar, and Taco Casa.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours.
Remember M for money and Mesrano.
If it has a logo on it, call me. 205-800-8000.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
It's a dry forecast for the rest of this week. The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86. Clear tonight, the low 62. And for tomorrow and Thursday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs between 85 and 88 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:57, and that's going to wrap it up for this first hour of the Gary Harris Show, brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Hour number 2 is going to be fun. More of your phone calls, plus Kayla Anderson with the Titans report at 10:15 this morning, so that's coming up shortly. Also, we'll try to get to some of the Alabama coach sound from yesterday, probably focus on the coordinators, since Coach DeBoer we had live yesterday here on the show and was played some yesterday afternoon. So we'll have all that, plus big event last night for local fans. They got to meet and greet with Ryan Williams and also with Jalen Milroe. We'll discuss that as well. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show is coming up, so keep it dialed in to Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Kevin Wyatt.
Monday Night Football. The Falcons come from behind to beat the Eagles 22-21 as Kirk Cousins hits Drake London on a 7-yard touchdown pass with just 34 seconds to go. But the door was left open by the Eagles with 1:40 to go, third down. And with Atlanta having no timeouts left, they decided to throw a pass instead of run the ball. That pass went incomplete when Saquon Barkley dropped it, and that stopped the clock and gave the Falcons the time they needed to come down and score. This is what Nick Sirianni had to say to justify the move.
They were running a certain defense and junking it up in the middle. So we're trying to go around the outside, and it didn't work.
Both teams now sit at...
You ordering a Snap. Need to modify an order? No problem. So when it comes to food for work, make it easy on yourself with EasyCater. Start your order at EasyCater.com.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
Tuscaloosa area realtors and apartment complex owners have mounted an effort called Stop the Big Tax in opposition to next Tuesday's education property tax increase vote. Plans are in the works for former President Donald Trump to attend Alabama's home game with Georgia in 2 weeks, as he did in the Titans game against LSU in 2018. To commemorate Constitution Day, a voting drive is being held at Shelton State main campus 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. The voting drive will be in the atrium of the school.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
10:03 on this Tuesday, September 17th, hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld with you, and another big hour coming up. Your phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904. And we'd love to hear from you. Had plenty of calls in the first hour, and we would love to get some more as well. And a reminder that Pinnacle Park at North River is a townhome community that is absolutely gorgeous. You have to see these beautiful townhomes to appreciate them. Gated community, security features in place, and close to beautiful Lake Tuscaloosa. Find out more at pinnacleparknr.com. That's pinnacleparknr.com. Pinnacle Park at North River, a stunning home within a secure community awaits you at Pinnacle Park. All right, let's jump right back into sports talk this morning. We talked about Bryce Young. We talked about the Falcons' comeback over the Eagles last night and how it capped off a crazy week number 2 of NFL football with a lot of dramatic finishes. Never say die in the NFL. Parity is there. We got into Alabama and Georgia with the Drew D. Armand. And right now, I want to get to defensive coordinator Kane Womack from Alabama. Both he and Nick Sheridan had their media sessions yesterday, as did head coach Kayla DeBoer. I love listening to Coach Sheridan talk offense, but Coach Womack on defense, what a straight shooter he is. And I want to go to some of his audio from yesterday. We may not play it all, but this is the Alabama defensive coordinator discussing Alabama defense after 3 weeks, the game against Wisconsin, and obviously already kind of looking ahead to the bye weekend in Georgia. Here's Coach Kane Womack.
Statement, and we'll have questions.
Okay. Looking back on last week, I thought we played a fairly complimentary style of football. One of the things that I've been pleased with as a team is that we're creating takeaways. When we create takeaways on defense, we're turning around and turning those into scores, and I think that is really tremendous. It means that we can take advantage of the momentum that takeaways give you as a defense. I think our players are continuing to focus on creating takeaways as a defense. I thought we took a huge step forward this past week. It showed up in some way. We were able to create 2 forced fumbles in the game, but we had what we call 13, really takeaway opportunities or takeaway attempts, where we got hands on the ball, whether it was a pass breakup, whether it was breaking on a potential interception that we just didn't come up with, or getting to the quarterback in the backfield and having an opportunity to create, sacks and sack calls, fumbles. We had 4 forced fumbles in the game. Just the ball only bounced our way twice. You had twice, the ball went directly to one of their guys. But what I encouraged our players is we harp on those things during the week, and it showed up on game day that they are attempting to take the ball away from people. And so very proud of our guys in that regard. I thought from a situational standpoint on third down, the numbers look like we were dominant. I didn't think we were as dominant as we were capable of. From a third down standpoint, I think we gave too many yards to them that allowed them to feel like they put them in from an analytic standpoint, what we call go scenarios, where they were able to go for it on fourth down, and they were able to convert 3 of those 4 fourth down attempts, and we had some mistakes from a fundamental standpoint or from a schematic standpoint. We did not execute well enough on those fourth down scenarios. Obviously got one stop early, which was really good. But I thought that we missed some opportunities as a third down defense, and it's something that we've got to work to improve on. We are certainly aggressive on the outside and coverage right now. I think our guys are doing a really good job. In the last 2 games, we've had over 100 snaps of man coverage. And on the outside, in man coverage, our corners have only given up 2 catches for 24 yards. So we're really pleased by the consistency that we're seeing from some of those young players on the outside. I think that we've been fairly sticky in coverage. I think we're denying some of the easy access throws, and yet at the same time, we've been able to limit some of the explosive plays downfield last week. We were able to create 12 as a team or as an offense, and we gave up 4 overall. So we won the explosive play battle, and we won the turnover margin, which was certainly pleased with that. I still think there's some things that we're not doing well enough in the run game right now. I think we've got to continue to work in cleaning up some of our fundamentals and techniques. I also think schematically, when we call some of our pressures, we have not executed those things well enough up front. And so those are things that we've got to continue to work and preach. And this bye week is really critical to get some of those things honed in because we need to continue to move in a direction to where we can be a dominant run-stopping defense. And I do not think we are there yet as a team. So plenty of work to do, lot of things to correct, a lot of young guys, experiences that they will learn from as we carry into SEC play. So need to take advantage of this bye week.
Thanks, Coach. Back right, Ryan.
Coach, how do you lean into a bye week, and what's your approach to the players with SEC play around the corner?
Yeah. You know, I think each bye week, right, it can be self-serving in its own way depending on what your team needs. You know, I think bye weeks early on in the season can be maybe handled a little bit different than bye weeks later on in the season. For us, we still have a number of young players. We're still very early in the season. There's a lot of things fundamentally that we have to get better at. There's things from a schematic standpoint that we've got to become more consistent when some of our blitz techniques and blitz patterns, we've got to become more consistent in those things. So we'll get a ton of banked reps off of some of those things that we want to do moving into SEC play. You know, fortunately for us, you know, we have probably shown a small volume of defense over the first 3 weeks here, and that's a good thing. You know, we carried a lot more defense going into each of those 3 games, and once we realized that we didn't have to show certain things, we chose not to do that. And so we'll get a ton of great reps at some of those things schematically that we need to make sure we get extra reps as we move into SEC play as well. But for us, there's a little bit of, you want to get a jump on your next opponent from a schematic standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. We'll get some of those things prepared. But also, if there are things that we are going to see in the next few weeks that we do not see in practice or we have not seen yet this season, we may use a walkthrough or a scout team period to probably get a jump on some of those things as well, based off of schematics that we're going to see from our opponents maybe the next 3 to 4 weeks. So, you know, there's a number of different layers to how you handle a bye week and what you need to get done.
All right, good stuff there. I told you, Kane Womack dives right in, and he just he gives it to you. Even in the opening statement, he talks for several minutes. We're going to break away from him, though, to get out on the Pinnacle Park at Northport Hotline, and that's where I find my pal Ellis. Good morning, Ellis.
How's it going there, Gary Harris?
It's going well, my friend.
I like that man.
Yeah, he's a straightforward football guy, no doubt about it.
Yes, he's straightforward about everything. So, you know, if he's not happy, he'll tell you he ain't happy. You know,
that's right.
He ain't going to sugarcoat it.
That's right. All business.
Yes, all business. Boy, there was a lot of people there at the T-Mobile store yesterday, wasn't there, in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I said I was going to get into that, man. I had got my guy down there to get a little video, and they were lined up around the corner outside the store. What Ellis is referring to is there was a T-Mobile meet and greet with Ryan Williams and Jalen Milroe last night, and fans had an opportunity to have pictures made and get items autographed, and they turned out in huge numbers. In fact, I know they had a cutoff time. I hope, because, you know, my guy was there for a little while and had to leave. I don't know if everybody got to them or not, but, yeah, it was I put out a little video on my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page. It was, man, they were lined up, I mean, around the block, Ellis. Of course, you're talking about two of the biggest stars in college football. You're talking about a guy in Milroe who I think is one right now, one of the Heisman Trophy favorites. And then you got probably the best freshman football player in the country. And so, yeah, it was a big deal last night at the Tuscaloosa T-Mobile store. And then Tide 100.9 was out there with Ryan Fowler, and 95.3 The Bear was out there. So big event last night.
And I seen the video you put out on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. I figured you did when you brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I follow you on your page there. But
well, I appreciate that, my friend.
Yeah. I just hope we can get them they're running the ball so much. Wisconsin, they put up 140?
Yeah, they're going to have to, as Drew was saying, they're going to have to work on some of their run fits and shedding blocks and be a little more consistent there. I will say this, and of course, Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback, went out, but at the end of the day, because you're right, Wisconsin had a couple of nice drives, but at the end of the day, under 300 yards of total offense and 10 points, you're gonna take that. You're gonna take that most of the time.
But I was just thinking, down the road, when we start playing the SEC teams and playing better teams that's got better players, we got to. But no, I'll take that any day. 10 points.
Yeah. So far they've given up 26 points in 3 games. That's a little more than 8 points a game. So, yeah, but you're right. You're going to play better people. We get that. But if you can just consistently, as I say, points per game is still the most important stat there is on defense. That's the most important. How many points? So if you could keep teams under 20 points a game in this day and age, that would be good. If you can keep, let's say you give up for the year, you give up 18, 19 points a game. Alabama should, if that's the case, have a chance to win them all. So that's not bad. Right now at 8 points a game, that's really, really good through 3 games.
But we'll get some people healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Number 13 especially. We need him. We need him and Keon Sabs out there. They're all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing that.
All right, brother. I need to hit this break. Good to hear from you, Ellis.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide.
All right. It's 10:15. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back with Kayla Anderson from Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 Nashville.
.com or call 205-810-8888. The all-new Child's Country Buffet opening soon on Skyland Boulevard. Join us for a meal to remember.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
It's a dry forecast for the rest of this week. The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86. Clear tonight, the low 62. And for tomorrow and Thursday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs between 85 and 88 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Want to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Download the Tide 100.9 app today.
All right, 10:18. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for the Tennessee Titans report. And for that, we always turn to my friend Kayla Anderson, Emmy-winning sports anchor on TV, now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, weekday mornings on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville, and she's going to talk Titans with us. Good morning, Kayla. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you guys are all doing well on this great Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Hey, listen, Titans could be 2-0. Probably should be 1-1 at worst, but they're 0-2. And as Bill Parcells famously said, you are what your record says you are. Disappointing that the Titans have let back-to-back games slip away, the latest at home against the Jets. And now you're in a hole early. A lot of football left, but the longer you go without winning a game, the harder it is. What did you take away from the Jets' win over the Titans this past Sunday in Nashville?
Yeah, and I think that's what's frustrating, Gary. You're exactly right. It's like, okay, they've been in these games, right? It's been a situation where both games have been winnable. And unfortunately, that's the more frustrating part for some of these players, to most of them that we, heard from after the loss and on Monday is, that's more frustrating because we knew we were in these games. And then if you break it down even more, Gary, it's even more frustrating because you're losing these games primarily for the fact because you're making some of the same major mistakes. And when I say major mistakes, I'm talking about plays from Will Levis that continue to be very curious and problem, like, and then also special teams, back-to-back weeks with the blocked punt. You can't do that. This is a guy in Ryan Stonehouse who could be one of the greater punters to do it. But unfortunately, if you keep putting him in harm's way, he's going to end up like he did last year, out for half the season. It's very mind-blowing, Gary, that we saw such a similar situation this weekend and how they lost the game. And I think a lot of people were hopeful that would be something Will Levis would put in the past in terms of the boneheaded plays. And unfortunately, that did not happen.
Yeah, and of course, Coach Callahan got caught on camera asking him what he was doing. He added obviously a stronger, added an expletive in there, but it is mind-boggling. I mean, you look at Will Levis and you cover the guy with the Titans. I mean, if you drew up a quarterback from just a physical standpoint, I mean, it would probably be Will Levis. I mean, he looks like a Greek god. I mean, he's 6'4". He's probably got body fat under 10%. He's got a rocket arm. But I am seeing some things on social media that say, $1 million arm, 2-cent brain. He did it. It was bad enough that he did it against the Bears, and then he comes back and basically has the same play against the Jets. I mean, it's inexcusable, really. As I said to you in a text, this isn't, well, we're going to learn from it, and this is a growing teaching moment. If you got to teach your quarterback not to throw the football, in terrible situations or just sling it out of his hand, this is going to keep happening. What do you make of it, and how do you, at this level of football, get to where he's at and make boneheaded decisions like that?
Well, but that's what's really that's the big question, and that's why a lot of us who actually cover him on a daily basis and know Will Levis on maybe a different level than the national media does, that's why it's really so interesting to us and mind-boggling for the fact that even last year, I know it was a small sample size in 9 games that he played, but there were never any mistakes to this level. And I understand an interception, that maybe you're feeling pressure or maybe the wide receiver didn't make the play. Like, I can understand sometimes mistakes like that, especially, again, because he's played, not a ton of football, but he's played enough to absolutely know that you can't just flick the ball away, one being an interception in that first game, the other being a fumble. You can't do that. And for some reason, I almost feel like he's reverting backwards in his career in terms of like using his brain the right way. And he even said at the end of the game when he was talking to us in the presser, he says, I know I need to rewire my brain. Well, I don't know if rewiring your brain happens in overnight. It almost feels like to me, Gary, and again, this is just my perspective covering him over, the last 2 off seasons, 2 games into this season, is I think he knows the pressure that's on him now. When you looked at Will Levis last year, he wasn't even supposed to be the starter. He came in because Ryan Tannehill got hurt. And there was no real pressure on Will Levis. Again, reminding you, he's a second-round pick. High at that, and they traded up to get him, but he's a second-round pick. So he came in, and I think some of the things he does was just rookie mistakes. And some of the things he did, I don't think he maybe thought a lot of these things, and so you saw some really good out of him. This year he comes in, he has a brand-new staff, he's learning a new offense, he's expected to take his game to another level because you want to know why? They added a ton of weapons for him. And they also got a quarterback-friendly coach that has helped a lot of other big-game quarterbacks along his career. I think Will Levis, although he might not say it, I think he's feeling the pressure. And I think he is in his own head. And I'll even go as far as saying this. I have heard that there has been talk possibly of having some sort of a sports psychologist, having some talks with him just 2 games into the season. That, to me, can be a little worrisome if he can't fix this sooner than later.
Yeah, you're talking about reprogramming his brain. He'll be reprogramming his butt on the bench if he can't get it turned around. There are some good things happening with this team. Had a chance, like you said, to win both games. Defense has been solid. The offensive line looks improved. There's some good things happening, but, it's a bottom-line business, and you got to get some wins. But talk about some of the positives that you've seen the first two games.
Well, let's start with the defense. I mean, the defense has been outstanding. And I know that they haven't created a turnover yet. And, Jeffrey Simmons has been very vocal about that after each game, that they have to start creating turnovers. And they do, right? You can't continue to, win games if you're just not going to turn over the ball ever. But they are the number one defense in the NFL right now after 2 games. They're doing a lot of really good things, and that starts up front. Tavon Sweat has a huge game in game 1, and maybe he was quieted a little in game 2, but then guess who appeared? Jeffrey Simmons. Harold Landry. He was just getting back from the ACL last year. Took him a while to get into gear. I already called it, Gary. I said at the beginning of camp, I said, I think he's going to have his biggest season yet, Harold Landry. He had 2 sacks in that game. And then you look at the back end, it's just so much more improved. And I think they're just getting started. There's so many things. Ernest Jones, I was going to say, that's who I was going to say, the linebacker that was brought over from the Rams. He's brand new to this defense. He's only been here like 3 weeks. He has now been announced on the depth chart as the starter. So he came in a game, didn't start. He's already back up there. He was one of the best linebackers for them this weekend by far. I think his game is going to continue to grow here under this Denard Wilson defense. So the defense all around, I think that's the positive. I think it's unfortunate we have had to talk so much about the mishaps and not talk about the defense because they've lost the game when it's all said and done. I also say the run game. The run game has been good. I think you can't really take anything away from that in the first 2 games. Tony Pollard's been great. He's been excellent. Everything is advertised, coming in here. And Tajay Spears, while I think they're still going to try to find ways to incorporate him, he is dealing with an ankle injury. He suffered that in the second half. Not supposed to be super serious, but at the same time, that's not always the greatest news when you kind of need both of those backs at some point to get Chestnut a rest. But I do like the run game up to this point. Offensive line, Gary, I agree. I think there's been improvements, but it's still a very young line. So there's going to be games where you're going to see bright spots and then you're going to see mistakes. And unfortunately, the mistakes came on the right side in this game with Nicholas Petit-Frere, who is, finally back, hopefully for a full season healthy. And he allowed 3 sacks. So that's something that we got to see cleaned up. He allowed double-digit pressures, so that's never good. But at the time, J.C. Latham, who started off in his first game, maybe having some issues, he bounced back. He looked great on Sunday against the Jets. So you're going to have those growing moments in a really young line, but that's what Bill Callahan's here for.
That's right. Yeah, to get that unit going. All right, every week's a different challenge. Packers come in. We don't know Jordan Love's status, which means the Titans could potentially face their former quarterback, Malik Willis, who got a win last week. They didn't ask him to do much. We know he's limited throwing the football, but Josh Jacobs carried the load. Obviously, if you're the Titans, you'd rather face Willis than Love, but it's at home. What do you see in this game with the Packers and the Titans?
You never want to underestimate any team. That's what I've learned about the NFL. You just don't want to underestimate a team, even if they have their backup in, even if they're missing some key parts. Because when you have a good coach, like Matt LaFleur in particular, who, by the way, was the offensive coordinator at one point here in Tennessee, he will have a game plan that can set his team up for success. Well, guess what? That's exactly what he did last Sunday against the Colts. He set Malik Willis up for success. It's not like
he did.
Willis, like you said, it's not like he did a lot to win the game. But what did he do, Gary? He didn't do anything to lose the game. And
That's right.
They were able to dominate the run game, and it was enough to beat a Colts team that, let's be honest, too, with their quarterback situation, Anthony Richardson, he gave the ball away 3 times, and their defense is struggling right now, especially on the back end. So they did enough to win the game with the situation that they're in right now with Jordan Love out. And I do believe Malik Willis is going to play on Sunday. And I think these Titans players know, especially the ones that have played with Malik in the past and started the year with Malik, at least training camp, they don't want to lose to him. No offense against Malik Willis, but he was the third string here. They don't want to lose to this guy. So if it doesn't happen this week for the Titans in terms of those mistakes being cleaned up by Will Levis and company, there could be some serious talks about what they're planning on doing. Because there's a guy by the name of Mason Rudolph that's sitting on the bench as a backup.
That's right.
And rightfully so right now. But this is a guy who can manage games. He's a veteran. And if they feel like they're spiraling for, a game like this that they should win against the Malik Willis run Green Bay team, then we could see some changes maybe being made. However, Gary, I do think they're gonna stuff the run. I think that they had the game plan given away last week with Malik. They know Malik very well. They know his tendencies. They know his weaknesses. And I think the Titans can get this game. But Will Levis has to, let me repeat, has to correct the mistakes that he's making, and the special teams cannot have another blunder like that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Because I said this earlier about the NFL. 2-0 doesn't guarantee you anything, and 0-2 certainly doesn't guarantee that you're not going to be a playoff team. But the more wins you get early, you have a buffer. Let's say you start out 4-0, and it's a 13-game season. If you can go 7-6 the rest of the way, you're going to have 11 wins. You're probably in. You start out 0-3 or 0-4, and your margin for error is so small. So the Titans need to get a win on Sunday against the Packers. There's no doubt about that. Great stuff as always, Kayla. Fill the listeners in on where they can find you. Well, go ahead.
Can I add to that really quick, Jerry? On the quarterback front, you said you can. It's easy to pad wins in the beginning. It's also easy for a quarterback who has not proven anything in the league yet to lose their team. And let me tell you something. DeAndre Hopkins is not getting enough snaps, and I know Brian Callahan said he'd fix that, but there were spots where he was open on Sunday. And Will Levis, crazy enough, because that was his guy last year, couldn't identify him to be able to even get him the ball. You start losing some of these veteran wide receivers, you could lose the locker room real quick if you're Will Levis. Sorry, I had to add to that point.
No, listen, the leash is short for quarterbacks. Look at Bryce Young. Last year's the number 1 overall pick is on the bench. I mean, it's you're right. It's like it or not, everything starts with a quarterback, and the patience level for developing quarterbacks is not what it once was. And he's got to play better. You're right. Mason Rudolph, who has proven he can win games in the NFL, will be in there sooner rather than later. So that is a storyline to watch. Great stuff, Kayla. Fill the listeners in on where they can find you.
Yeah, at Kayla Anderson TV on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And then you can always download our podcast wherever you get your podcast. Ramon, Kayla, and Will, always interesting stuff. We talk a lot of college football as well. But always appreciate y'all for having me on.
Thank you so much. Outstanding report from Nashville on the Titans. They need to get a win on Sunday against the Packers. It's 10:33. Falcons managed to get a win last night against the Eagles under circumstances that didn't look very promising. Orlando Ledbetter will be with us Thursday for the Falcons report. Hey, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, 2300 13th Street downtown. As I always say, the Y is ready for you when you're ready for the Y. Tremendous facility, great staff, personal training, fitness classes, Silver Sneakers program for seniors. I mean, a community of people who are like-minded. You'll enjoy the folks there that are working out. You'll make friends. And I've enjoyed my time at the Y, and I've been a member for over 20 years. So love for you to join me at the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. Get by and see Jeff Knox, the CEO, and his staff. Get signed up this month. There is no joining fee until the end of September, so you can join and just start paying your monthly dues. No joining fee. Also, 10% off all of the personal training packages, whether it's just for you or whether it's for you and a friend or your significant other. Personal training might be what you need to get over the hump if you've been struggling with your workouts. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa, give them a call, 205-345-9622. Find out more at ymcatuscaloosa.org. All right, we're wide open for phone calls when we come back on the other side, 205-342-9904. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Bye week for Alabama football, but boy, I tell you what, once it gets here, doesn't it go by so fast? Think about this again for a minute. I say this all the time during the summer.
In Alabama and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:38 here on the Gary Harris Show. Welcome back in. Gary Harris and Chase Brumfeld with you. And coming up tomorrow, Larry the Music Man will be back with us for his segment. We've really had a lot of great response on that, talking Southern rock, the origins of rock and roll and blues, and all the great jazz, whether it's the Memphis scene, the Delta Blues, the Macon, Georgia scene, Capricorn Records there, Atlanta, the Shoals, Montgomery, all the great music outlets in the South. We discussed that with Larry, the Music Man, tomorrow morning at 10:30 on the Gary Harris Show. Right now, we're open for phone calls, 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. All right, I mentioned Alabama's already 3 games in, and there's a bye. Normally, this would seem a little quick, but there's 2 byes this year. I think this is a welcome time to get one, try to get some people healthy. Georgia's got one, too, so they're in the same boat. They'll both come in to this huge game a week from Saturday, coming off a bye, so no advantage or disadvantage for either team there. But I think for Alabama, it's coming at a great time. And some thoughts on the first 3 weeks. The preferred outcome is 3-0. Alabama is 3-0. I said in the summer that I, picked Alabama to win the SEC championship in my media poll and picked them to go to the college football playoff as one of the top 4 seeds. I'm sticking with that. Obviously, the game coming up a week from Saturday night is going to have a big say in that. If you win that game and you're Alabama, you're really off in running not only 1-0 in the SEC, but 1-0 with a win over the team that most people picked to win the SEC, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. Alabama doesn't play Texas, but they do go to Tennessee, and Tennessee looks strong. They do go to LSU. Right now, we're going out to the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcoming in J.K. Good morning, J.K.
Good morning, Gary. How you doing this morning?
Doing well.
Gary, I just have one quick question, and it's not football related. I just want to know when Coach Oates might be releasing the basketball schedule.
Good question. And I don't know the answer. I would think that, bits and pieces of it have been already released. Hang on, I'm going to search something for you here just real quick. Because I think the majority of it is out, to be honest with you. I think that I'm going through it right here. JK, I think it's basically released. If you go to rolltide.com, there might be a couple of fill-in dates, but all in all, they've got the charity game against Wake Forest coming up at Boutwell Auditorium, October the 18th. Then they've got another charity exhibition game against Memphis up in Huntsville on October 28th. And then they open the season November 4th at home against UNC Asheville. They've got Arkansas State November 8th. All these games are in Tuscaloosa. November 11th, they've got McNeese State. November 15th, they go to Purdue. And then they've got the CM Newton Classic in Birmingham on November 20th. Earlier this year, it's usually in December. That's in Birmingham at the Legacy Arena against Illinois. Then they are in that Player Eras Festival tournament in Las Vegas with Houston, Rutgers, Notre Dame. And then the SEC ACC Challenge, December 4th at North Carolina. And then they've got December 14th. They host Creighton here in Tuscaloosa. That's a return game. Remember, they go to North Dakota to get back up into, a home game for my mind just went blank. Help me out, Chase. Help me out, JK, the great forward from North Dakota for Alabama. My mind, brain freeze. Somebody help me here.
Nelson.
Yeah, Grant Nelson. The Grant Nelson game. So they got that game. Thank you. December 18th. They're at home against Kent State December 22nd. They've got South Dakota State in Tuscaloosa December 29th, and they've got Oklahoma, and we get into the SEC January 4th. So the schedule is pretty much released.
Well, Gary, that's what I'd call a professional answer, and that's why you're the best in Tuscaloosa and probably the state of Alabama, brother.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That makes me feel good. Everybody likes to be told they're good at something, JK. I'm not going to lie about you, my friend. So thanks a lot.
I
Yeah.
don't know your alter ego of being such a great announcer at the Druid City Art Festival either. And I'm an artist, and I listen to you every year out there, and you do such a fantastic job announcing out there.
Well, thanks. You know, I love music. I love the arts, and I love to make it a big part of my show here. But, yeah, Bama basketball is ready to roll. And when you said that, I was like, well, I'm not sure when they're going to release it. I think it's already released. So, yeah, that's a you know, I'm not going to go through every SEC game, but that's a heck of a pre-conference schedule, man, with some really big games and some good opponents and some great trips. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm so pumped up for Bama basketball, and we'll have that spillover when football and basketball are going at the same time. I think that's going to be cool as all get out.
Now let's get Rodney to put it on Tider Insider, and we'll have a complete schedule, brother.
All right, I'll tell him to do that. Thank you, JK.
Yes, sir.
All right, good to hear from you. Appreciate that. Let's get to Robbie. Hey, Robbie, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Gary, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's off week. Get a little players healthy. Get ready. Already here, and that also means Striker Strong golf tournaments here. That got me stressed out all the way. So,
yeah, you've been going nonstop. Right. But, yeah, coming up, wow, time flies. You're right. Coming up a week from Friday at Bentbrook Golf Course, Striker Strong golf tournament, and going to have some great celebrities there, tons of former Alabama football athletes, players, and so forth. And I know I've seen on Facebook that there's still an opportunity for people to get involved, right?
Yeah, I still have a couple spots for the afternoon tee time. Had some drop out, not a lot, but if you want to play in the afternoon, about a 1:30 tee time, you just get in touch with me, rglenn1069@gmail.com, or go to the strikerstrong.org, and there's spots on there you can register. And like I said, there'll be bunch of former players, Bama football, basketball, and baseball. Some track, some UAB, few Auburn guys. Trying to get Coach Wimp Sanderson, but he's taking care of his wife, and I'm hoping to get out there. But got some of his ex-players going to be playing, so it's still going to be a lot of fun, a lot of opportunities to raise some money and help some other kids with misfortunes like Striker, kids with brain injuries or any other medical delays.
Well, man, I know that you put a lot into this nonstop. It's obviously a passion project for you, and I follow Striker's updates. Is he sleeping a little bit better right now, Robbie? Have you been able to get him to the point where
he's not sleeping at all? He woke up at 1:45 yesterday, woke up at 2:45 today, and that's talking like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours total sleep, and he won't sleep for the rest of the day. Don't know if it's his brain that's doing this or if he's got some pain in his hips or what's going on. And the only way we can find out is take him in for a bunch of tests, which we just do not want to do.
No, I don't blame you. No, I know you don't.
And still don't get any answers. So,
well, I know a lot of people are thinking about you and praying for you and excited about that golf tournament. Quick thought on the first 3 weeks of Alabama football. Have you liked what you've seen?
Yeah, I said it would be a 38-10 over Wisconsin, and I was close. You were very close. Great game all the way around. Saw some great things, punt returns, punts, kickoff. Guys were flying around hitting, and they also looked like they were having fun while they were doing it, but just very serious. It was nice. A game I want to see this weekend because I think a lot's going to have to do with how the polls react, how South Florida handles Miami. I want to see if Miami blows them out, they're going to think, oh, that's not a very good win for Bama. We think it is. I know it is because South Florida's good. I hope South Florida beats them or at least gives them one heck of a game. And
me too. I think, again, the perception game is in play, and a lot of people want to see Alabama discredited. So you can bet if Miami lays a whipping on those guys, let's say they Cam Ward goes nuts and they hang a 52-10 or something on them, you're going to hear it immediately. Hey, Alabama's overrated. Told you, Alabama struggled with South Florida. Miami blew them out, even though that comparative score thing gets proven not to be relevant every year. But, yeah, I'm with you. I'd love to see South Florida give them a good game because I know people are keeping score on that one. And if it's a big blowout, you're going to hear a lot of people calling into Sports Talk Radio trying to tell you that Alabama's not any good. So,
yeah,
and I've already discredited the Wisconsin win. You know, all I heard from people was, well, that's, you know, you go into Camp Randall and Alabama doesn't like to go on the road to the Big Ten and crazy atmosphere and jump around House of Pain and all that stuff. And then when Alabama went up there and hung 42-10 on them, well, the quarterback went out. And even though that Tyler Van Dyke barely beat the other guy out and Wisconsin's not any good. And, you know, Alabama really is at a point where they can't win. No matter what they do, the critics are going to try to find a way to punch holes in it. So we were told Wisconsin was going to be a test, and then when it wasn't a test, we were told, well, Wisconsin's not any good. I can't imagine if they beat Georgia how people will try to punch holes, but I'm sure they'll try to find a way.
Oh, they already started saying that. Oh, look what they barely did against Kentucky. But you know, any team goes on the road, it's tough in the SEC.
Oh, it sure is. Listen, if anything, I wish Georgia had been impressive in that game. I think that's an attention getter for Georgia. Not that they needed too much attention coming into this game, but yeah, that Alabama better not have any fool's gold ideas there that they're going to see the same Georgia team. They're going to see the best version of Georgia, and hopefully Georgia sees the best version of Alabama. And if that happens, I'm picking Alabama. If it's good on good, if Georgia plays its best and Alabama plays its best in Tuscaloosa, I'm taking the Tide. I'm telling you right now. I am taking the Tide. I'm already taking them.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's going to be a great game. I mean, you got the ex-president coming, Trump. Think he'll come play in the Striker Strong tournament?
Man, you need to try to get in touch. Well, I wish I had some pull there. I would try to get him to make an appearance. Maybe our buddy John Merrill can help us out with that. Maybe we'll call John Merrill and get him on the case. Hey, Robbie, got to run. Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Roll Tide.
All right. It's 10:50 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're going to take a time out and come back with our final segment. We still got time to get a phone call in on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. And before we hit the break, I want to talk about one of my great restaurant sponsors. We've got several. We try to spotlight them all from time to time, but Brick and Spoon is certainly one that I enjoy. Breakfast, brunch, and lunch every day until 2 o'clock. Man, I tell you what, the food, those build your own Bloody Marys are incredibly popular. Mimosas, just a great location, downtown Timerson Square. Terrific on football Saturday mornings. Tons of people there, great atmosphere, and great food. Breakfast, brunch, and lunch every day.
100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs, 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
It's a dry forecast for the rest of this week. The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86. Clear tonight, the low 62. And for tomorrow and Thursday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs between 85 and 88 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
All right, 10:55, and we're back here on the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Fun show today, and a lot of good calls, a lot of good interaction. Chase, listen, appreciate you back there. I'm not in studio today. I am anticipating being back in the studio tomorrow, and then on Thursday. But out of the studio the last couple of days, Chase has done a great job back there at our studio and with our callers, and had some good content today. Before we close this out, we've talked a lot about Bryce Young. And again, I'm just really disappointed for him. But I do want to say this now. That's not a good team. But he did not play well in the first 2 games. Now, that's, by any measure that you use, he didn't play well. So I'm not saying that he played great and they're benching him. I'm sure that the coach, Dave Canales, says, as a coach, I've got to do what's best for my football team. I still don't think ultimately that's what's best for your football team. What it tells me, as I said earlier in the show, is that we're giving up on Bryce Young. Because if he, to go to a 36-year-old backup over your 22-year-old number 1 overall draft pick from a year ago, right now, this soon, yes, I understand you got a responsibility to try to win. You don't want to lose your locker room and that kind of stuff. But to not give him a couple more games, I find short-sighted. But that's the move that they've made. And as we've talked about, you wonder about Bryce Young's future with that organization. I mean, my feeling is now that you can't go back to him. I mean, technically you could, but not with any confidence. So I think that much like Mac Jones in New England, he'll be looking for another team. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We appreciate you tuning in. We're getting you ready for T-Town Sports Daily coming up next at 11 a.m. A reminder, catch me on TV tonight with your local sports and with Rodney Orr on Tider Insider TV at 6:30 on WVOA 23. If we're still not up on your TV provider due to technical difficulties, you can find us at WVOA23.com or download the WVOA 23 app, just like you downloaded the Tide 109 app. Have a great day, everybody. For Chase Brumfield, I'm Gary Harris. Talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m.